I came across something interesting the other day. Apparently, people with very high IQs tend to share certain traits. One of the big ones? A strong sense of curiosity. They're constantly asking questions about the world around them. And not just the big questions like,
what is the meaning of life?
But the little questions too. Stuff we encounter every day. And then I thought, that sounds a lot like you. Because if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're probably the kind of person who hears a weird question and thinks,
wait, yeah, why is that?
So congratulations! According to this study, your curiosity may be a sign of a very powerful intellect. Now granted, instead of using that intellect to split the atom or solve the mysteries of the universe, you're here learning about things like, is the hot dog a sandwich? Why socks get lost in the laundry, and who invented the slinky. But hey, curiosity is curiosity. So welcome to the podcast that answers some of the questions you've always wondered about.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Hi, I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for joining us. Something strange has happened to us since around the turn of the century, and it's changed the way we live. So have you always wondered, when did hydration become a full-time job? Somehow we all turned into human sponges. And now everywhere you go, people are carrying water bottles the size of small propane tanks.
This is my Arctic Glacier Pro Ultra Chill 9000. It'll keep my water cold till the next presidential election. And at 64 ounces, I can use it to fill my radiator or aquarium.
But it wasn't always like this. Not too long ago.
I'm thirsty. Here, drink from the hose.
And that hose water? Delicious.
Notes of rubber, hints of warm sidewalk, subtle overtones of whatever that green stuff is growing on the nozzle.
But today, we've developed relationships with our water containers and have turned them into emotional support bottles.
Oh no, I can't possibly leave home without little Drippy.
So just how did we get here? Well, back in 1945, the government recommended
consume the equivalent of 8 glasses of water a day.
Now the key word there, equivalent. That means coffee, juice, soups, fruits and veggies, even the milk on your cereal. It all counts. But as the years went by, we erased the whole equivalent part. And the rule simply became,
consume 8 glasses of water a day.
And that's when the beverage manufacturers took notice.
Okay, hear me out. What if we sold water?
From the sky?
No. From a bottle.
Genius!
Eventually, reusable bottles turned water containers into fashion accessories. And suddenly, hydration went from a casual suggestion to a competition.
Isn't she a beauty? Stainless steel, double insulated, vacuum sealed, GPS enabled. I'm pretty sure I can watch satellite TV on this thing.
Somehow, our ancestors crossed deserts with a canteen the size of a soup can. But we can't make it through a trip to Target without hydration support.
I'm sorry, but I never leave home without Sir Sips-A-Lot.
However, maybe it's not such a bad thing. After all, drinking water is good for you. But just remember, if you do ever forget your fancy thermal hydration cylinder, hey, there's always the garden hose.
Tastes just like summer vacation.
It's the Always Wondered podcast.
Have you ever watched a movie and thought,
that actor is perfect in that role?
But the truth is, there have been many famous movies that nearly starred completely different people. So have you always wondered, what were some of Hollywood's almost casting choices? We start with the action classic, Die Hard. Today, we can all picture barefoot cop John McClane played by Bruce Willis. But believe it or not, the role was originally offered to Frank Sinatra.
Yippee-ki-yay, baby.
2 decades earlier, Sinatra starred in a movie called The Detective. Now, since Die Hard was technically a sequel to that film, contractually, Sinatra was offered the right of first refusal. Now, being in his 70s, he turned it down. But if not, we could very well have had terrorists taking over Nakatomi Plaza while Sinatra strolled in wearing a tux.
Hans, baby. Nobody messes with the chairman of the board.
The role was then offered to a who's who of Hollywood. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Mel Gibson, Clint Eastwood, James Caan, Paul Newman, and more. Before finally Bruce Willis got it, and the rest is action movie history. But that's just the beginning of Hollywood's almost files. Take Raiders of the Lost Ark. The fedora-wearing Indiana Jones became iconic thanks to Harrison Ford. But the original choice? Tom Selleck. Which means Indiana Jones might have been
archaeologist, adventurer, mustache enthusiast.
The first choice for Forrest Gump wasn't Tom Hanks, it was John Travolta.
Run, Forrest, run!
Actually, he's not running across America. He's dancing.
In that case, dance, Forrest, dance!
Han Solo in Star Wars? The original choice? Al Pacino. But he turned it down because he didn't understand the script.
Really, Al, it's quite simple. This will be a prequel to The Empire Strikes Back, and eventually a sequel to Revenge of the Sith, but not before it gets renamed A New Hope, making it the 4th of 9 chapters, and... never mind, I see your point.
And we're just scratching the surface here. So the next time you sit down and watch one of your favorite movies, think about this. There may very well be an alternate universe somewhere in which Sandra Bullock plays Neo in The Matrix, Burt Reynolds is James Bond, O.J. Simpson is the Terminator, and Robin Williams stars in The Shining.
Is that the same universe where Brad Pitt hosts this podcast?
Probably not.
One can always hope.
The Always Wondered Podcast.
Did you ever hear someone say,
Let the chips fall where they may.
it sounds very philosophical, but also slightly concerning, because if chips are falling, someone should probably sweep them up. So have you always wondered where the phrase, let the chips fall where they may, originated? Well, for starters, let's first determine what types of chips we're not talking about. These aren't potato chips, which brings up an interesting question. If potato chips fall to the floor and no one is around, do they still get eaten?
Scientifically speaking, the answer is yes.
And they're not poker chips, because if poker chips fall, it usually means one thing.
My buddy Steve just rage flipped the game table.
Nor are they chocolate chips, because if chocolate chips were to fall,
Oh no, let me try to catch them. I'll use my mouth.
no, this phrase comes from a much less delicious place. Woodworking. Now, back in the day, when someone chopped wood with an axe or shaved wood with a plane, little bits of wood or chips would fly everywhere.
We call it 19th century workplace confetti.
The idea was simple. Focus on the important work, cutting the wood. And don't worry about where the little chips land. In other words, do what needs to be done and let the small consequences sort themselves out, which is surprisingly wise advice from a guy swinging an axe.
Also wise advice, don't stand behind the axe guy.
And through the years, the metaphor stuck. So remember, life often gets a little bit messy, but sometimes you just have to do the job and let the chips fall where they may.
Preferably, into a bowl of guacamole.
The Always Wondered Podcast.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Always Wondered. Remember, new episodes come out every Friday. Now, you could travel to a remote mountaintop monastery where monks ring a bell every time a new episode drops. But it's probably much easier just to hit the subscribe button and let the episodes come right to your device. And check out some of our weird little videos on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. All right. As always, we leave you with one to ponder. Have you always wondered, if two mind readers read each other's minds, whose mind are they actually reading? Until next time, stay curious and keep wondering. I'm Rick Peterson. Thanks for listening.
The Always Wondered Podcast.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and a review. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to offer suggestions for future topics or simply reach out to alwayswonderedpodcast@gmail.com.